We like to say that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And we're trying to get from a place where we don't have as much freedom to a place where we have a lot more. And the shortest line, the straightest line in politics is a ballot initiative. If we elect candidates over and over again, and given the choices we have, how many cycles is it before they start doing some of the things that we could do right now, this year, on the ballot here in Colorado? And not just on the statewide ballot, you've got a local process that's very effective. One of the dynamics in politics today is that almost every decision is made in Washington. Why is every kid's lunch being debated nationally? All of the power has gone to the federal government. The power is as far removed of us as possible. And so what happens is that oftentimes even libertarians talk about what can be done to control the federal government. And frankly, I don't think much can be done at the moment. I think that the solution is to do stuff at the state and local level where we can directly put pro-freedom measures on the ballot and campaign for them, where we can be politically pretty darn pure and make the point to educate people. And so what I submit to you is, by doing initiatives, you don't have to rely on somebody's personality. You don't have to rely on someone who says the right things, having lived a perfect life. You don't have to rely on all those foibles. You can write it in black and white. You can put it on the ballot, and in campaigning for it, one, you have the chance of changing the law, and that's what it's all about. The whole goal of electing someone to office is to change the law. So here we do it directly without having all the heartaches. Once you pass an initiative, as Grover Norquist likes to say, unlike candidates, it doesn't change its mind later. But there's another advantage that has nothing to do with changing the law. It allows us to seize the agenda. So how do you get on the agenda? Well, if it's going to be on the ballot, if it might be voted on and change the law, it's news. And it's our best way to seize the agenda.
Anyone have a question? All right.
Well, there's lots of questions, but one of which is, to get a ballot measure here in Colorado done costs estimates of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So how are citizens going to control that versus, big interests with lots of money?
Great question. And there's really two parts of it. Let me deal with the special interest first. Any process we have, if you have millions of dollars and already have an organization with thousands of members, you've got a leg up. And there's no process we're going to develop that gives us a leg up over someone who's a billionaire or over the AFL-CIO or the teachers union or whoever. However, almost all those other forces, if they could push a button and destroy the initiative, would do it in a heartbeat, because they don't use the initiative as effectively. The issues, they're invested in the legislature for some good reasons. Their issues don't sell as well on the ballot box as they do with individual legislators, because the stick they have is aimed at individual legislators. They can't defeat the whole population. They can defeat an individual legislator, and legislators know that the teachers union is going to be there every single election. They're going to be organized, they're going to take names, and they're going to try to kick butt. And that's why we're better off oftentimes doing things on the ballot.
I think you make a great case that we should use the systems available to us to promote our agenda. But is that the best system to have ultimately? Because you look at the polls, we've had good initiatives passed in the state and we've had really bad ones. The last poll I saw was something like 2/3 of Americans support the mandate for birth control, which is just crazy. So is it really, how much can we really trust the public to promote freedom as opposed to let's steal everybody else's money?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at that. One, when someone shows a poll, that's different than an election. And the poll on a mandate for birth control and so on, people are not looking at all the ins and outs of that. It's not the same as having something on the ballot. Not that people don't make mistakes on the ballot. I happen to think that Tabor, which passed here, is probably better than all the bad initiatives that have passed here in the entire history of the process. In fact, I might make the argument that Tabor is better than all the bad initiatives that have passed in all 24 states that have the initiative process in its entire history, just because it's the type of thing that legislators, no matter how conservative, how Republican, the legislature's never going to do that. And it can only come from the people. So I have a lot of faith. Not that I think that people can't be wrong, but just that if you have a process where you put the power in their hands, you don't have the problem of when they vote their self-interest, that is the public interest. Whereas when the legislature votes their self-interest, that's not the public interest. That's the legislator's interest. But back to democracy, I think libertarians and conservatives who are constitutionalists have some trouble with democracy. And I don't use it to mean pure democracy where everybody votes on everything and the majority rules everything. I want the Bill of Rights. I want things walled off from the majority, a lot. In fact, I think the majority should decide a very slim, narrow, public portion of the decisions in the country. But within that slim, narrow portion that government has a legitimate role, to me, you have to be a Democrat. You have to say the public ought to rule here, and that representative government, which of course has become a euphemism for unrepresentative government, but that the idea behind electing representatives wasn't to somehow stiff-arm the people out of the way, but to actually allow the people without quitting their job to have say. And if you believe that, then you have to kind of say, well, the people ought to be able to represent themselves then too, because that just follows. And I also think that you have to look at it and say, outside of theory, how do you get it accomplished? If you want a society that has more freedom than we have today, I think you have to say, how do you get there? And that's democracy. We have to convince our neighbors and hold a vote. And so when I hear someone say, well, maybe this voting's going too far, my thought is, that's our protection. That is what protects us, is that the average American believes we do have a constitution, we do have freedom, and is there to protect it, and believes their vote will protect it. Now, they're wrong oftentimes, but that belief holds our government in check more than the words in the Constitution ever will.